Thinking how you feeling all mashed up with no money in your pocket? They done ring the bell and ain't feeling nobody? Pause. Think about it with intentional thought and consider where we go from here. Stay tuned and hear with Cassius Stuart's perspective on this one for country. He's the leader of the United Coalition movement in this general election that's coming up on September 16th. So as we have this discussion, join our co-sponsors, Domdev Enterprises and Page Investment, and our friends at D1 Development, Islandese Realty, and Sammy Chicken, as we ask all of the questions of this aspiring prime minister and find out where his party or his movement is going to take us in the next 5 years. So post your questions and share this post so that all your friends can get to hear what he has to say. He's a very entrepreneurial-minded person, and I'm sure you will love to hear what he has to say. So we'll be right back.
Something to think about with Dale Happy Knowles.
Welcome back to Something to Think About with Dale Happy Knowles. This evening we have Mr. Cassius Stuart, the leader of the United Coalition movement. You might have heard his name called multiple times over the last years as he's been in and out of frontline politics, but he is back, and this one's for country. Welcome,
this one
Cassius.
is for country. Dale, it is so good to be with you. I am coming to you live from Tappan Bay, Eleuthera. And do forgive my my backdrop because I'm rented this place and the orange glow from the light from the orange curtain is lighting up this place. So do forgive me. But I'm in the field. I'm on the ground working constituency by constituency. I think I have one of the largest constituencies in the Bahamas because we stretch from all the way north of Hatchet Bay down to Bannerman Town, Cape Eleuthera. So I have Hatchet Bay, Rainbow Bay, Governor's Harbor, Savannah Sound, the Tappan Bay, Rock Sound, JC. I have JC as well. I also have Green Castle. I have Cape Eleuthera. I have Bannerman Town, and I have to walk each one of them, and I have to meet everyone in all those little small little settlements. But I'm determined to meet everybody in every facet and every creek and cranny of this constituency, and it's going really, really good. I'm encouraged on the ground. I'm being able to hear the heart and soul of the people on the ground here in Eleuthera, and they are encouraged to know that change is here. And everywhere I go, people are saying that, listen, they're ready to embrace change. So it's not only in New Providence, it's not only in the second city, it's also in the islands too. The flavor of change, the flair of change is in the air, and I think it's a God move though. Because people are saying that, listen, we don't like what we have, but we want something different. And this is why it's important for us to be able to give them something different, give them an alternative government, something that they can believe in, something that they can trust. And for them to be able to say, listen, I could really cast my vote behind the United Coalition because I believe in the members and the leaders of this organization.
Awesome. Well, I spent much time in Eleuthera when we were building the initial cell networks and the like, and we had to go in all them nooks and crannies that you're talking about and travel up and down, and the roads weren't that good as they might be now. I know about the mosquitoes, but all of this stuff. Yeah.
The roads in Tappan Bay still needs. I noticed that you know how we do it for election. We try to come and try to do a little patch up work during the election. But my cry is for us to make this place a paradise for Bahamians, not for tourists. So the roads has to be done year round, not only on election day.
Right.
The roads have to be good because we are citizens of this country and we deserve better.
Right.
And so we're seeing some road improvements going on, piece here, there. But in relations to my friend and my friends in mosquito, I was just telling you that I have to go back probably by 8 o'clock. But when the mosquitoes come out, they are so big that one landed on my shoulder yesterday and tell me hello. And so I had to run home because the mosquitoes, the mosquitoes are ferocious.
Mm-hmm.
And so I figured that's a natural what they call quarantine
Mm-hmm.
mechanism because everybody's in the house because the
Yeah.
mosquitoes everybody inside. So you ain't got to tell nobody it's quarantine time. When the mosquito comes out, everybody goes inside. So, but I'm having fun. I'm having fun. I have to fight through the mosquitoes, and I'm winning the war, even though they got me all blotch up. But I'm winning the fight, and
Yes. Yeah.
reaching one voter at a time, one citizen at a time, and being able to hear their heart and hear their cry. Because Dale, I mean, most people don't really know that Eleuthera was the first capital of the Bahamas. The first capital came out of Eleuthera.
Mm-hmm.
The first parliament was in Eleuthera. We had the first United States embassy in the Bahamas here in Eleuthera in 1786.
Mm-hmm.
The first jail. Out of Eleuthera came some of the first factories in Hatchet Bay. We used to have factories that produce milk and chicken and eggs and beef and poultry. We used to produce canned tomatoes and sliced tomatoes and so the island, even in Rock Sound, had factories. So the island was littered with economic activity,
Right.
manufacturing. And we also had, every settlement probably had a major hotel. You had Cotton Bay Club, you had, all these hotels here, but now
Mm-hmm.
the island is dying. And we know that the former Prime Minister Ingram said, Eleuthera had its time, and that still rings in the minds of many people here in Eleuthera, that Eleuthera had its time. But I'm here, I'm telling them the message is Eleuthera will be number one again, because if this was the first capital, the success of the Bahamas depends on Eleuthera becoming number one again. And my job is to make sure that happens, that we can make this place number one. And so I am fighting very, very hard to make that a reality. But also too, Dale, over the last year, I've been preaching about a policy of number one, and making the Bahamas number one in the region
Mm-hmm.
in education. We've been hovering between a D and an E in terms of a national educational standard. And we got to push, and we got to be able to set high standards. Public and private schools, we should a something I'm going to strive for. That's something I'm going to strive for. That's something I'm going to fight for, and that's something to be live. Right now, we are among some of the sickest people in the region. We have
Mm-hmm.
155,000 people diagnosed with diabetes. We have hypertension. We have cancer. And Eleuthera has the highest concentration of cancer in the Bahamas. And so we got to begin to feed ourselves from the food that we grow in the
Right.
ground. And so we
But
will
you
be
have
number
the land to do
culture.
that. Yeah.
We have the land and we have some really good soil here. But in the event that we don't
Mm-hmm.
have land in certain areas, we can do vertical farming. We can build greenhouses that specialize in hydroponics and different types of crops. So there are different ways that we can use the land, even if we don't plant it in the soil, that we can be able to
Right.
grow above ground. And so, but we have to become number one in agriculture. We bring in $1.2 billion worth of food every year. And in order for us to be able to sustain our domestic market and also the second home market and also the tourist market, we want to be able to grow our own crops in the Bahamas. I was in one of the food stores at Governor's Harbor the other day, and I went for some meat. And they tell me, well, Mr. Stewart, ain't no more meat to be waiting on the boat. I said, waiting on the boat? What you waiting on the boat
Yeah.
for? Because
Mm-hmm.
one time ago, the meat was fresh, the chicken
Yep.
was fresh, the mutton
Mm-hmm.
was fresh, and now everything got to coming from Nassau. We got to stop that, and this is why we got to build from the ground up within these islands so that they can sustain themselves. Any leftover we could ship to Nassau, but we got to
Yeah.
stop it from Nassau, because Nassau now brings that from the United States to Nassau to the islands. We need to go reverse the trend.
Yes.
And so
So
I'm
I
excited.
told you guys that the steward here, Cassius, is very entrepreneurial minded, and um he is bursting with energy and ideas to get done implemented. And so but you know, we got to put a little rain on them sometimes. So on the show, Cassius, what we say is that what we think, we become; what we radiate, we attract, and what we imagine, we can achieve. And you're talking about a lot of that right now, right? And we like to change the narrative of the 242, and that's our goal to do so. And so you mentioned a lot of things just now, but you are a businessman, and you would have been highly successful in the standards of the average man in the Bahamas. And you just did a declaration that was comfortable above the watermark, right? Let's put it that way. And so the question is, over those years where you were in and out of politics and now you're back, your network has grown significantly. So why back to politics now?
You know, subsets. Remember subsets? When we call it
in
math. They talk subsets.
Mm-hmm.
I have a house with a high gate, but my house is in a community, which is in a constituency, which is on an island, which is in a country.
Mm-hmm.
So if the country fails, my island fails, my community fails, my constituency fails, my house fails. Yeah. And because I'm a part of a subset, I have to fight to make sure that the whole works, because the sum of the part is never greater than the whole. Okay. And so while I could shelter myself partially, I can't shelter myself from the economic ruin that is coming to the Bahamas because of heavy spending. Today in the newspaper, you saw that they say we breached the $10 billion mark in terms of our debt. Right. And that is very, very scary, because I am hearing that, you know, by November, we're going to be reevaluated in terms of the value of our currency because of the high debt that we have. Can we sustain the one-to-one power with the U.S. and does our foreign reserve, can our foreign reserve keep us? Because if our debt keeps spiraling, we're going to need monies to be able to be able to pay off that debt. If we can't pay off that debt, then we pull from our reserves to chip down on the debt. If we pull from our reserves, then the value of the dollar drops. And so, so the reason why I'm back is because of subsets. Because I'm a part of a whole, and the part is never greater than the whole.
That's great to hear. So, and then in business, you would have been driven in order to become so successful. And so, tell us, are those same drivers in business as what driving you now, back in your subsets to be able to?
Well, it's always striving for number one. In everything you do, you have to be excellent in everything you do. And so I always work with a principle that any product that I manufacture, that it has to be so great that people keep calling for it. And so I manufacture a line of incontinence products, which is adult diapers and bed pads and wipes and adult wipes and so on. And I insist that my product is far superior than the pants. I made sure that we can beat them, even though they're the market leader. So when you wear my adult diapers, you were like, listen, nothing is like them. And so when I produce my bed pads for hospital and so on, people be like, you know, I've never seen a bed pad like this, because I insist that excellence is in everything I do. And once you live with the principle of excellence, it's a driving force to keep you and also propel you to get to the top. And so it has to be a part of our narrative. It has to be a part of our dialogue as a nation, that anything we put our hands to do, we do it with the best of our ability. And you know, Scripture teaches us that whatever you do unto the Lord, and the Lord requires excellence in everything you do. So if you painting a house, make sure paint it the best ability. If you cleaning the toilet, make sure it's the best toilet you ever clean. If you sweeping the floor, make sure you, whatever you find your hands to do, make sure you do the best you can possibly do. And once you do that, you would be on the road to success, because no matter where you are, once you're excellent, Proverbs says, a man who is diligent in all his ways will stand before kings. And so sometimes you'll find yourself standing before leaders and kings because of your work, because of your excellence. And for me, the whole goal of becoming excellent as a society, excellent in everything we do, whether we're in sport and in education and healthcare and in agriculture, excellence has to be permeating from our being as a people. And that's the only way we're going to succeed. Right now, we have a mediocre dialogue where we want to do halfway. You know, you hire some fellas and they won't wake and so on. We have to change the dialogue. It comes with leadership that we have to change the dialogue, and we have to teach our young men and our young women that whatever we find ourselves and wherever we find ourselves, we are the best in whatever we do. And that's the message going forward. The message for the next generation is you have to become the best at whatever you do.
Yes. So we talk about that as the narrative that we need to keep perpetuating throughout the country so that we could get people to change. And so when we look at that and those activities that you were talking about just now, that's successful. But why would people want to follow Cassius Stuart? Because let's say you don't have no titles, no nothing that you could help them, but why would they want to follow you? Can you hear me?
People always follow success, and people want to follow success. In fact, most people do. Okay. Because I try to be as humble as possible. But people want success. People want a leader. People, sometimes you get comfortable when you're hanging out with the crowd, but out of every crowd, people are looking for leadership. And so we have to be able to provide that leadership. And why follow me is that, you don't want to follow somebody. If you broke and I broke, we both broke together. And if the blind lead the blind, the two are in the ditch. Yeah. And so it is best to find somebody who's going somewhere so that you yourself could find yourself going somewhere as well too. Right. And so for me, I'm always trying to be the best, and I want to hang around the best, and I want the best. I want to live good. So when I die and I go to heaven, I tell God, when I was on earth, I had the best. I did the best. I've been everywhere. I saw all the countries you created, God, because I was able to become successful at doing that. And so, and that's my word to the next generation. Follow the best. Don't follow people who ain't going nowhere. Because if you follow people who ain't going nowhere, you're going there too. Nowhere. Yeah,
that is true. That is true. So tell us a little bit about the United Coalition movement. What caused that to form, and what is it, and so forth?
Well, to be honest with you, I was not interested in a coalition. I understand the troubles that comes with coalition, and but the cry of the people was that third parties need to come together. The independents need to come together. And so there was a meeting called, and I was invited to the meeting. And there in the meeting was Mr. Lincoln Bay, and there was Barrow, McIntosh, and my and Moultrie. What happened?
Service back down there. Yeah, so we're here this evening talking with Cassius Stuart from the United Coalition movement, and he was just about explaining how the coalition came about and the like. And he was telling us
meeting,
before
I said to them.
Yeah, and he was telling us about how he what drives him and the like and so forth. And so hopefully his internet will come back shortly and be able to continue the discussion. But what are you experiencing now about people? Some of the things that we have issues with today in the Bahamas, internet services are struggling. Some areas are power services struggling. Some infrastructural issues. We're going up and down, up and down, up and down with some of the services because some of these services have been at top level, but we're coming back down, and so we need to revamp these packets and so forth. And so we want to discuss with him when he comes back about Ken Blanchard's triple bottom line about being the investor of choice, the employer of choice, and the service provider of choice, and so forth. And so he would be able to see whether we can figure out where is his leadership and his team's leadership taking us to where we want to go. And so whilst we do that, we'll just take this short break that we're going to have, and then we'll come back and hopefully you'll be back online so we can continue the conversation. You've been listening to Something to Think About with Dale Happy Knowles. My special guest this evening is Cassius Stuart. from the United Coalition Movement, and we'll be right back.
Sammy's Chicken. There's nothing like it.
ID Star, God of 242 Elite, and I just want to tell y'all all about a great experience crossing Orlando this past month. We had some fundraisers. We want to thank everyone for reaching out to us. We want to send a special thank you to our coach D, Denzel Knowles. He really did well taking care of us and looking after us for the past month. Everything that we did, it was awesome. We had really great experience. We played plenty games, man. Like, we really played a lot of games. We had some scrimmages in there. Felt like I was in school. We wake up every morning for mobility. Right after that, we probably go do some ball handling. If not, we have game right after. He's putting in about 2-3 games a day. I'm telling you, we playing about 3 to 4 times a week. It was a really great experience. It was well worth it. And I really hope that we continue the ball. I just want to ask anyone that's out there in Freeport or probably just in the Bahamas, still in school, trying to play ball, build on your skill. D1 Development is a really great program. Y'all should try and get out at it. But 242 Elite is a really great traveling program.
Welcome back to Something to Think About with Dale Happy Knowles. We're here this evening talking to the Cassius Stuart from the United Coalition Movement. And he was just explaining a little bit about the movement and how it came about and what their purpose and direction they want to go in. And so welcome back, Cassius. And
yes, sorry about that. That is a little weak. Of course, you know, the challenges some of these family islands have. So I'm now having to stream from my phone. So yeah, let's get it going. So we came together as the whole goal was to be able to strengthen our resolve and look at all of our political organizations and then choose among the best of the organizations for candidates going forward. And I was invited to this meeting. Mr. Lincoln Bain said to me, oh, we need this, and we can't do this alone. He can't do this alone. He needs us. And so I met this in play. And so I decided, okay, I went to my executive team and I told them that, listen, you know, I think it may be a good idea to consider this. We had a vote and everybody agreed to move forward with the coalition. And we did that. And we followed suit. We played ball. Mm-hmm. And when it came down to Thursday, when we were opportunity to vote for the candidates and then the leadership. So the option was to vote for the candidates first, among all of our parties, go through and find out who are the best. And then once we do that, then we go for the leader of the organization. Mr. Bain had an objection. He wanted to vote for the leadership first. And so there was a vote on the floor which said, okay, we'll do the leadership vote first. We did that, and he lost and I won. And he did not take that too lightly. And so he decided that he won't be a part of our coalition because he didn't win the leadership race. And so I told the team that, listen, we still move forward. And so we have Ali McIntosh, we have Garth Rusborough, we have the BDM, the Speaker of the House, we have several independent candidates. And then we also agreed to endorse Reese Chipman, and he has agreed to endorse us. And so we have a scenario worked out where we are working with key persons within these constituencies to be able to endorse them and vice versa. And so the whole goal is to be able to bring the best of the best from among us forward as candidates and as leaders, so that we'll be able to put them forward as candidates, one, and then also as members of parliament, two, and then also as cabinet ministers, if God's willing.
Okay, and so I was mentioning also, whilst we were waiting for you to come back, that Ken Blanchard talks about the triple bottom line, and he's talking about being the employer of choice, the investor of choice, and the provider of choice. And so how do you see that your operation, your movement will be able to do those three things for the Bahamian people?
Well, quite frankly, in being the provider of choice, I think we have what they call political apathy now in the country.
Okay.
People have had their full with both the PLP and the FNM, and they're tired of the rhetoric, they're tired of the old promises. While the PLP do have their support and the FNM do have their support, there is a generation of people who is among us who does not have that appetite for the PLP or the FNM any longer. And there are some who has been fooling with them for a long time, has lost their appetite. And the question is who? And so the object, how do we fill their appetite? Because now they used something, they're used to governing, they're used to people who are capable of governing, but they really want to be able to see that in the next organizations. And so the alternative to the FNM and the PLP has to be able to step to the plate. And so, they keep asking us, is the Bahamas ready for a third party? The Bahamas always been ready for a third party. Third party was not ready for the Bahamas. And so we weren't ready to govern, we weren't ready to lead. And now we are ready to lead because we have, first of all, we have people like Halson Moutrio with us, who is also the Speaker of the House, who has been there for a little while. You're someone like myself who has an extensive background in management and leadership and so on. We also have people like Charlene Paul, who brings great wisdom and great management, great leadership to the team. We have Nelda Fox, who is a manager, as a leader. You have people like Shami Lindsay in Freetown, who has been at the forefront of managing businesses throughout the Bahamas. And so among our team is a great lineup of people and a great lineup of leadership, because I believe that if given the opportunity to lead, we need to be able to lead. And so the question is, if you given the opportunity, can you handle it? And that's the question. And that's what was frightening me with all of these people who they're talking about. They want to be a leader and they want to lead. And they ain't got nothing in their names. They ain't got nothing. They ain't got no business. They ain't got no job. And so for me, while that doesn't stop somebody from wanting to be a part of the political landscape, nothing stops you from that. You got to be able to add value. And so because we're in an added value environment, when somebody chooses you as a representative, you must add value to their lives and the lives of the many constituents that you hold, and also to the Bahamas as a whole. There are people who have been members of parliament that we still don't even know their name to this day.
Yeah, that is true.
And so that would mean that they have not added value in their arena. They have not added value to the Bahamas.
Yeah.
And so we don't want that. We want people who can add value to the life of the Bahamas and Bahamians.
Awesome. And folks out there, if you want to, you can jot your questions, your comments, your suggestions on the Facebook chat and YouTube chats. And if you put any that is directed directly to our guest, then we'll be sure that he answers them. I mean, he's a little ways away from me, but I have a way of getting him to answer what he needs to answer, because I get the impression that he's not going to be like politicians of the past who have skirted around questions, but he'll be direct in answering them.
Yes.
So as we look at where we at now, right? Because we always say to pause on the show to think about intentionally and consider where we go from here. So if we pause now, we are in the middle of a pandemic and in a spike in a pandemic. And we're about to have an election, which will probably cause more people to get hyper and, I guess, associated with each other. And the next thing you know, we might have a bigger spike again. Those are possibilities. With all of that in mind, being elected on September 16th, I believe that the first goal of the new government administration would be to steer us out of this crisis that we're in, that was being driven from a financial, a political, a social environment before. Then you had Dorian put a big hammer on you, and then you had COVID come along with a hatchet, with a sledgehammer. How do you lead us out of that? What does your organization vision for leading us out of that?
Well, when you look at the crisis of COVID-19, we have to now look seriously at one, vaccination. We have to look seriously at enforcing and continue to enforce the necessary protocols. I know that we live in a society that right now we've been bombarded with so much information as to why not be vaccinated.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It started off with 5G. Oh, this 5G and this 5G can kill you, and then it's say, oh, it's the mark of the beast, 666.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes on for other stories and other stories, and then you could understand why people say, listen, I ain't want that, because I ain't sure what that is, because you have so many different things. So you have a pandemic, and then you also have what they call an infodemic.
Mm-hmm.
You have so much information that you can't make a decision because you don't know right from left right now.
Right.
And really, you can't blame the people, because their phones are now bringing them information from all over the world. Everybody's an expert, and because some people say, "Oh, I've been a doctor," and they could be lying. I could be a doctor for so long. There's no way to verify that, but we take that word as gospel. So, so the challenge that any administration have is to be able to fight against all of the backlash, negative what lack we have against the vaccination.
Mm-hmm.
There's now a new conversation saying that most people who are dying are vaccinated, which is not true. But of course, they spin that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe vaccination should be forced. I do believe that everybody should be vaccinated, because I'm vaccinated. But forcing them to be vaccinated is another story.
Mm-hmm.
I do know that the European Union right now has made it mandatory for you to go into the grocery store, you have to be fully vaccinated. For you to go into university shop, and the US will follow suit in short order. So right now, I think there was a mandate that if you want a US visa, you have to show that you're fully vaccinated. Probably by next month, it'll be if you want to travel to the US, you got to show that you're fully vaccinated. So there are people who say, well, I'll stay home, I don't want to get vaccinated. But no government wants to risk their entire nation economic future because people don't want to be vaccinated. So this is why you have what they call the form of pressure on you to be vaccinated, because the economy shrunk by 14% last year. We've lost many jobs. We're losing lives. My barber, who was an anti-vaxxer, who was telling me that he is not interested in vaccination and it's a lie and it's a hoax. And, a few days ago, he died from COVID-19. And so, and I told him, I said, listen, buddy, you have to get vaccinated. He told me, no, you just got to die. And he did. And so, God rest his soul. But for me, we have to become serious about it, because politics is, let me tell you, the problem we politicians have. Because the narrative out there is that, oh, we don't want to be vaccinated and the government is forcing you to be vaccinated. If you're a politician and you support vaccination, then you risk losing support of many people. So do we then lie and say, oh, you shouldn't be vaccinated just to get your support, or should we speak the truth?
So but for that though, to me, being an engineer and having to be able to figure out how I'm going to be able to connect the reality with what is the concept that somebody wants me to design for, that's where the politicians need to find creativity in creating policy. And so what would the policy be that you will use to make that connection between the people who are scared to take needle and the rest of them, to getting them vaccinated as one measure, and then what other measures you might put on the table in order to get out of this rut?
Well, I think what the policy should be is, we should request vaccination, because when you look at the state of the hospital and the hospital care right now, many people, we died, 27 people died in the last week or two. And so many people are dying. And so we have to find a way to save lives. And so there are people who say they don't want to be vaccinated. And I could appreciate that. And I understand why they don't want to be vaccinated. But you got to also look at the people who are dying who said, listen, I wish I did got vaccinated. And so
Right.
you have to find a balance between the two. And so, like I said, I am not into forced vaccination or forcing people to be vaccinated, but I do know that we have to find a balance somewhere. I'm in Tappan Bay right now, and every citizen here is vaccinated.
Mhm.
There are wooden signs on every lamp-pole saying, "Be safe, get vaccinated. Be safe, stay, wear your mask." Protocol. So the community itself is taking measures to be able to protect itself and
Mhm.
encourage its citizens to get vaccination. And apparently, they were vaccinating today in the church, and they also in Rock Sound today. And so everybody is here getting vaccinated because they want to live. There are people who figure, they want to take the chance, but I'm not sure we should be taking this kind of chances.
Right. Right. Yeah. Okay. And so when we have that, then so if we know we have to do these things, and you have all this firepower on your team with management and leadership skills, and we have this citizenry who is apprehensive, for lack of a better term, then what are you going to do to get them excited about vaccinating?
It's just information. The same way we have the infodemic,
Okay.
we have to be able to provide information, the true information about vaccination. What is vaccination? Why should we be vaccinated? What does vaccination does, and so on. If you're using the Moderna or the Pfizer, they use a different technology. What they call again, the mRNA technology.
R&D. Hmm.
mRNA technology. And so, what does that do? And how does it create proteins and antibodies to be able to build up to fight against any impending bacteria or virus? And so, basically, people really doesn't understand what vaccine does. Really, all the vaccine does is prepare your body for a pending invasion.
Right.
And so, it's as if you're standing on Montague Beach and you're watching an army coming in, but you didn't prepare. When the army hits the shore, they invade the entire New Providence and they kill everybody. But because we didn't prepare, so the time as they reach we get to call the police officer and the defense force, they're everywhere and they subdue us. What the vaccine does is say, listen, an army coming. So by the time as the enemy reach, we have our defense force, our police officer, and our military line up to fight so that they don't get on land. We can keep them at sea and kill them at sea. That's all the vaccine does. It prepares your body for an impending invasion, but it prepares for the fight, and it gives us the advantage of killing off any invading virus or bacteria. And so once we can create that into animation and teach our children and teach the people what vaccination does, I mean, I'm sure that we are smart enough to be able to comprehend that. In fact, I had a friend who was coming from Colombia, and he was stopped because he didn't have his yellow fever vaccination.
Oh.
And so because Bahamas have policies that anybody coming in from Colombia needs a yellow fever shot. And because he didn't have a yellow fever shot, he couldn't come into the Bahamas. And so similar
Right.
policies will be implemented in the matter of days for the rest of the world. You can't go nowhere if you're not vaccinated.
Okay. And so that was going to be something that we have to steer people through, and that's where leadership comes in, right?
Exactly.
We've had 25 years of feast, as some people would say, and 30 years of famine, right? So as a sound leader, and a businessman, what would you do different than what our three prime ministers of the last 30 years have been doing that will make us advance to higher heights?
Well, what we should have done is we should have been. I'm not sure if you read the book called "Who Moved My Cheese."
Yes.
And I think we've been sniffing and hemming, and we didn't skull and hurry. We've been fooling around this tourism product, which is pretty good, but we saw the writing on the wall, but we just and hem and haw all day about all the tourists ain't coming, but we didn't shift to move towards manufacturing. We didn't shift towards the move being able to service and provide. We didn't shift towards a more knowledge-based economy. So we just stuck on this service-based economy where we wanted to serve people. And once America says, like they said last year, you know, no a zero travel ban to the Bahamas because of high COVID-19 cases. So that means that kills your entire industry.
Right.
And so if we were manufacturing products out of Eleuthera and Abaco and Freeport and putting them on the boat to ship to the U.S. and tapping to what they call the Caribbean Basin Initiative, where any product manufactured in the Bahamas can get duty-free import into the U.S., but targeting the markets, we could be bringing in resources, bringing in revenue. The trade deficit right now is $2.4 billion. And so we have enough natural resources like the sand, the salt, and all of the different natural resources to be able to really get into manufacturing. And so we should have been into manufacturing. When you look at our salt per se, right? The cosmetic industry is $1 billion industry. Exfoliating creams and other facial creams and so on. We need our salt to be able to make that. And so once we do that in the Bahamas and export that into the U.S., we have a ready-made market. And remember now, we could benefit from the Caribbean Basin Initiative. For pool salt and road salt. Road salt is perhaps one of the biggest revenue for Morton Salt. Road salt is when in the colder climates they use the salt to stop the ice from sticking. And so that they make hundreds of millions of dollars off every year. That comes out of the Bahamas. And so why don't we, as the people, do it ourselves? Something wrong with our hands, something wrong with our brains. And so we can be able to get into those markets. We can shift from tourism getting into the manufacturing of salt, different products and byproducts and so on. When it comes to aragonite, when it comes to sand, sand is a byproduct. When sand is heated, it creates what they call silicon dioxide. Silicon dioxide creates microchips and so on. And microchips is $1 trillion industry. And so we need to be able to get into not just the raw material, but into the factories, manufacturing of these raw materials and these products for Silicon Valley. And so there's enough opportunities as leaders for us to be able to begin to tap into it. I haven't gotten into water. I mean, we have all this raw material called water. What we have done is we have surrendered our water to a foreign-based company right now here in Eleuthera. We have a foreign company extracting water from the sea, converting it into fresh water and selling it back to us. I have a problem. What happened to water and sewage? They don't know how to do that. They couldn't buy the machine to do that. And so I have a problem with the way our leaders have surrendered our country, and we become economically lazy. We have become lazy in terms of vision, and we figure we want to encourage our people to be able to be great. And so in order for us to be able to tap into greatness, we got to begin to explore and begin to look at other markets and move away from just one market. Tourism will always be a part of the Bahamas, and we'll continue to nurse and I guess massage our tourism product. But we'll also look at manufacturing. We'll also look at knowledge-based economy, so that under a knowledge-based economy is where the intellectual capacity determines the wealth. We can get into other markets like software development, software design. We can engage in Silicon Valley to come into Andros to build our new Silicon Valley in Andros and in Grand Bahama. So the possibility is endless. One of the things that one of the things we also want to push is what we call edutourism too. Edutourism is where we begin to put the University of the Bahamas in Andros and be able to bring students from all over the world in the Bahamas and educate them from the Bahamas. And so we'll be the mecca of education and building the university, what we call the city of knowledge. So out of Andros will come the city of knowledge, and we can now begin to teach people from all over the world from the Bahamas. So there are different things that we can do, like I listed.
Yeah, so you very well subscribe to the view that I have, that our revenue should be in the vicinity of $100 billion. That we shouldn't be struggling with a $10 billion debt because of the potential. I say that because we haven't been innovating, and I don't see leaders in the past have been pushing any innovation. We've been more in a position of maintenance. So with that, do you subscribe to that we could get to the $100 billion?
Our economy is 12 billion dollars. We bring in about $2 billion in revenue from VAT and excise tax. That's basically chicken change of what we could possibly do. We got to be able to create new avenues. One of the things we learn in business is that when you're looking at your bottom line, don't worry about your fixed costs. Fixed cost is fixed. You got to find new ways of adding additional revenue stream and other income stream. And so we know that our fixed cost is $700 million a year. So that's what we got to spend on salaries and so on and so on. We got to spend another $300 million on subsidies. We got to spend another $300 million on $450 million on interest payments. So those are fixed. Now, how do we now be able to go over the top in terms of bringing in additional revenue besides VAT and government taxes?
Right.
That comes through our trade with different countries through the Caribbean Basin Initiative and the Lomé Convention. Because now when we start to manufacture glass from the Bahamas, when we heat up sand, we can make our own glass and export them out to the world instead of bringing them from China. So we could be able to cut that, because right now, if countries in the Western Hemisphere needs a product, we could cut the shipping costs in half by shipping it from the Bahamas.
Right.
And so we can get into that $1 billion market there. We can get into the $1 billion market for sand and salt. Also, we will find oil in the Bahamas. No question about that. However, the question is, what do we do with the oil when we find it? Do we keep it in the ground and be a country that is debt ridden, or do we pull it out of the ground, pay off our debt, and live good?
No, I believe that we keep it in the ground until we absolutely need to, and I don't see us needing that anytime in the next 50 to 100 years.
Okay, all right, but that's an opinion.
Yes, I agree.
That's an opinion. However, but let me just tell you about oil. A lot of people think that oil is just the oil that you use for gas in your car, but there are 6 derivatives of oil. When you heat oil,
that's fine, right? My only view on that is that we have so many more things that we could be doing also. So it's just a trade-off of what you want to do first. I'm not saying you don't need to do it at all.
The options on the table. I'm a man. I'm heavy into the environment. I love my environment. I'm heavy into the environment, and so when it comes to the environment, I am one who pushes to make sure that we can protect our environment. I do believe, though, that we should look at all the options, because if we do discover oil, what do we do? The question has to be put, and that's going to happen in a matter of months. What shall we do with this oil? And do we keep it in the ground, or do we pull it out and begin to make money? Now, I think the deal that the PLP cut was a disgrace. But I think we have to be more sensible when we cut deals with these companies. It always have to be a win-win for both of us. It can't be a win for them and a lose for us.
Right. Okay.
So we have to make sure that whatever deal we cut with investors and so on, we make sure there's a win-win for both players. And I think we need better negotiators at the table, so that whatever is negotiated. Because if you extracting oil out of the ground, you can't get majority of it, and you get 80%, I get 20%. That doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
You get 20% and I get 80%. And so that type of deal, I don't subscribe to. And we have to be a little more sensible when it comes to the way we negotiate the natural resources on behalf of the people. When you look at the royalties from salt, it was in the tone of some $10,000 a year. So we just have to be sensible in the way we administer and manage the affairs of the Bahamian people. And for me, anything I go after, I want to make sure that we win first. So my message is, the Bahamas has to be a paradise for Bahamians, and the tourists and the foreigners will just appreciate it when they come here. We don't build it for them, we build it for us.
Yeah, and that is great. So we have a question here from K-Roll. It says, why are we hosting open parliament tomorrow? I don't know or why are they hosting open parliament tomorrow? Are you familiar with the reasoning behind that?
I think the speaker still has the prerogative to host open parliament, and I won't be there. I'm in Eleuthera. I'll be in the Parliament Square knocking on somebody's door. I wanted to come, but I have so much work to do that I cannot afford to leave this place right now. And
Right.
but I think the speaker still has the prerogative to go ahead and do that. And so, I encourage him to go do what he needs to do.
Yeah, my understanding is from he was on the show, and we had a good discussion on the whole to do online and offline, on the show and off. And one of the things was it's just mainly education. It's the main driver behind it.
Yes.
Educate our people so that we could all understand our systems and the like better, and then we could become more. What the people want, as I find, Cassius, is that people want to participate in our governance. Right. And so I think that is his way of having one way of them participating. But what do you see as the way that you would get people to participate in our governance?
One of the things I found out is from the writings of Plato and the writings of Aristotle, the writings of all of the great philosophers, they always encourage people to get involved in politics, because if you don't get involved in politics, then your country will be run by people who are perhaps not as smart as you. The smart people sit down and watch, whilst the people who got all the big mouth making noise and they get elected. Now, just because they're elected does not necessarily mean that they're smart. Aristotle says among all forms of the government, he likes democracy, but he said the problem with democracy is that you don't normally get the best. You get the favorite, and sometimes the favorite may be the dumbest.
Right.
So that's a challenge we face when it comes to democracy. For me, we need to push more participatory democracy, but we need the people who are watching this, the people who are intelligent, the people who are educated, to be more engaging. Don't hide behind your success, because remember, I started off the show with subsets.
Right.
Your success is also pending on whether or not this country succeeds. And so you too got to be involved in the democracy. And it is always a good thing to have people who can craft and shape a culture, shape a future, to be a part of leading the dialogue and the narrative. For the longest time, you had people who perhaps can't even read and write. They call in talk shows and they're creating the narrative. You've never read a book in your life, but you want to create a narrative, and rightfully so. But for me, if you want to change my narrative, at least give me something to work with. Yeah. And so my encouragement is to make sure that, we need a participatory democracy, but we need more players who can add value in that as well.
Yeah. So now, if you would come along a couple of years earlier, then you might have cost me the one throw my hand and the thing myself. But after that, but it is what it is. So we've been discussing these things that move this country forward, that your leadership will carry with your team, the United Coalition Movement. And so one of the things that we coined here on another show, Blueprint for Change, and now we continue it, is where I said about the new built environment. And we talked about that being an intentional environment, because, when we hit the COVID thing, everybody was talking about the new normal. That really pissed me off, because new normal to me don't mean nothing. A new normal is more of the same, but we really need to have something different. And so the definition that we have here was that the new built environment is the political, economic, and social environment of our society formulated through intentional thought and actions. And you obviously have been saying a lot of that tonight. Designed to create the greatest opportunity to build the highest quality of life for our citizens, residents, and those subscribing to and supporting the culture of the 242, and which would be sustainable for generations to come. And I think a lot of what you have said tonight falls directly in line with this definition. You want to add anything to that?
Well, first of all, basically, I think to sum this whole thing up, I think the writer is trying to say that success is strategic. It's not random. And for too long, we allowed or tried to allow success to be random. Beauty is never random. Beauty is always strategic. And so if you want a beautiful garden, it has to be planned. It has to cost you something. And it is a constant process. It's never a once in a lifetime thing. So if you want a beautiful society, it's a planned, strategic approach to development. And if you want a beautiful family, it's work. It's strategy. If you want a beautiful community, it's strategy. And so What we have done, though, we figured if we could leave our societies randomly and let it flourish, we will have a beautiful society. And just look at an open field. If you leave it randomly, it'll never be beautiful. You'll have a lot of weeds.
Yeah, that's true.
And so for me, success is strategic. And once you understand what success is, you have to know what to go after. And so for us, if you want these communities in the Family Island to be successful, it has to be a strategic approach. It's never a random approach. And so the new normal is, okay, I can throw my hands up and I'm just going to accept what we get. But we don't have to accept it.
Right.
You know, we can always change the dialogue, change the narrative, and change our future. You change your future by the choices you make. You know, everybody is free to choose, but the consequences of your choices is what you have to live with after you make that choice.
Yes. And so in that choice all comes to line with attitude. And so, you know, when we look at everything, we talk about the national attitude, the community attitude, the individual attitude, and so forth. And a lot of that needs to change, because just going with the flow has been the way we've been for about 30 years or now for a little while. And so how do you turn that table to cause us to go in the right direction, change that narrative?
It's leadership. It's leadership. You know, once you get the right leadership in place, you can begin to change the narrative into telling people that they can be greater than they are. Remember now, if the blind lead the blind, they can fall in the ditch. But if you have somebody who can see and they're leading the blind, then we can go places.
Right.
And so even though the people are blind, if you have a leader that can see, then we can take them places. The trouble with that narrative is, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. Then you take advantage of everybody who's blind. But the object is to be able to open up the eyes of everybody so that they could see for themselves, so that they could be a part of helping you lead.
Right.
What we have done is, one man can see everybody is blind and he takes advantage of everybody. The narrative needs to change. Okay, everybody is blind, and let's open up each other's eyes so that now, in terms of lifting this country forward, everybody is now a part, because everybody can see. The light is on.
Yes. Okay. And so as we coming down to the end now of the show, I'd like to ask this last question, and then give you the opportunity to say what you want to say to the Bahamian people. But what would you like to do to cause this new built environment that you would have created when you talked at the beginning, with all of these different things that we were able to put and implement and put back in motion, and some new things to them? What would be needed for you to get that rolling from day one? What would be the first steps? Sorry?
We got to get the human capital on board. We got to get Bahamian people to think a certain way. We cannot succeed if we don't have, a productive society. We cannot succeed if we don't have a society that is focused. And we cannot succeed if we don't have a society that buys into the vision. We have a challenge right now. We have 155,000 people registered with diabetes. We have about 80% of our population fighting with hypertension. Cancer is another major factor in our society. So the productivity level is going to be low because of the health problems.
Right.
We got to get our country back on being the healthiest country. And once we begin on the healthiest country, then we got to be focused on where we're going. And once we focus on where we go, and once they buy in, then we are unstoppable. Because
I agree with that.
We have to have a national buy-in. The question is, there was once a dream, the dream of the Bahamas, where we wipe every tear from every eye. The trouble is, the dream has never been realized. And we need to make sure the dream is realized, so that our children, when they're born in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, they will be able to cash the check that was given to us in 1973. The check says that no woman, child born when are free, life will be frustrated because of deprivation.
Right.
And right now, we are deprived of opportunities. We're deprived of healthcare. We're deprived of so many things. So the check bunks, but we need to be able to cash that check. That no man, woman, or child born when are free, life should be frustrated because of deprivation. We don't want no depravity in our country.
Awesome stuff. So, folks, we've been listening to something to think about with Dale Happy Knowles. My special guest is Cassius Stuart. He's the leader of the United Coalition Movement. They're vying in the 2021 general election on September 16th, and with advanced polling on the 9th. And Stuart, we wish you all the best in that endeavor.
Thank you so much, sir.
We hope that your mosquitoes give you leeway this evening to continue
Yes.
your campaign. And
I'm going back on the road right now and pray my strength in the Lord, because you know the sun and the mosquitoes, they're messing up my mangrove skin, and they really messing up. so pray my strength in the Lord.
Yeah, but you put too much charcoal on the fire, then they keep coming. You know.
Okay, all right.
Put a little bit of smoke in there so that they can disappear.
Oh, they disappear. Okay, so
yeah.
I'm going back on the road now.
Yes, but thank you kindly. And if anything else you wanted to say to the public before we go?
Listen, you know, on September 16th, I just want each and every one of you all to consider voting for change. The United Coalition, we have a wonderful team of leaders who are willing and able to steer this country out of this economic calamity that we're in. We need you. We need your support. We need you to be a part of change. In 1971-73, the lumberjack came down and the Bahamian flag went up, and we had pride in our hearts. We need to feel that pride again. On September 16, we could feel that pride again when we do away with both the FNM and the PLP and usher in a new administration to lead this country forward. So I need you to vote United Coalition. Vote for our team. God bless.
Thank you. And that sounds like a good message to end on. And so, as I said, we've been listening to Something to Think About with Dale Happy Knowles with Cassius Stuart. He's very energetic and zealous individual who has been successful in business and now putting his hand back in the hat so that he could make a do at the national level in of governance. That would be his goal. And so we thank you all out there in digital world for staying tuned and listening to us, and with some of the challenges that we had with the internet earlier, and sticking by so you can hear what this good gentleman of the soil has said. And we look forward to seeing you. Stay safe and sound. If you're not vaccinated, isolate. That's what we always say around here, and so forth. And so with that, we ask you that if you want to join us, you can join us on as a leader, as a team leader, or as a sponsor, as a friend. Just hit us a note up. But stay safe. Thank you, Cassius.
Thank you.
Producer, you want to take us away?